What do I mean by top-down economics? Their basic theory, you know, Mr. Romney, his friends in Congress, they basically believe that if we just give more tax cuts, on top of the Bush tax cuts, to the wealthiest Americans, and we get rid of regulations that we've placed on Wall Street banks, for example, to make sure we don't have another crisis, or on the healthcare industry to make sure that they don't discriminate against you because you got a pre-existing condition, or, you know, the idea is that somehow, if we cut taxes for folks at the top and get rid of regulations, this will lead to more jobs and more prosperity to everybody. That's their theory. That's the path that they're proposing. It's not that complicated. That's where they will take us if they win, I guarantee you. The centerpiece of Mr. Romney's economic plan is a new $5 trillion tax cut. That's the heart of his economic plan. Now, we know that this tax cut would probably be going to the wealthiest 1% of all households. We knew that. But yesterday, an independent, nonpartisan organization, they dug into the numbers. They investigated what would it mean to give this Romney plan a try. And this, by the way, this is an organization that's headed by an economist who worked for President Bush. All right, so this was not my opinion. This was not our team's opinion. This is something that was looked at by a nonpartisan group. Here's what they found. They found that folks making more than $3 million a year, the top 1/10 of 1%, would get a tax cut under Mr. Romney's plan of almost $250,000. $250,000 would go to folks who are making $3 million a year or more. That's the average. That's the typical. Now, Mr. Romney claims that he's going to get this tax cut and he's going to bring down the deficit. So then the question is, who do you think gets the bill for these $250,000 tax cuts? This is a smart crowd. You do. This analysis also found that if Governor Romney wants to keep his word and pay for his plan so that he does not increase the deficit even more, the average middle-class family with children would be stuck with a tax increase of more than $2,000. So I want everybody to understand here. He's not asking you to pay an extra $2,000 to reduce our deficit. He's not asking you to pay an additional $2,000 to help care for our seniors. He's not asking to pay an additional $2,000 in order to rebuild America or to fight a war. He's asking you to pay more so that people like him can pay less. So that people like me pay less. Look, in order to afford one $250,000 tax cut for somebody like Mr. Romney, 125 families, like many of yours, would have to pay an additional $2,000 in taxes. And that's not a one-time thing. This would be each and every year. Now, I just want you to know, this study was released yesterday, so his campaign was asked about it. Well, what do you think? So, well, first they say, well, there's a liberal organization, despite the fact that it's headed by an economist who worked for George Bush. Then they said that the study failed to fully take into account the massive economic boom that would come from cutting taxes on the wealthiest Americans and the biggest corporations. Because we all know how well that worked out the last time we tried it. Look, Orlando, we know better. They have tried to sell us this trickle-down tax cut fairy dust before. And guess what? It didn't work then. It will not work now. It's not a plan to create jobs. It is not a plan to reduce the deficit. It is not a plan to build our middle class. It is not a plan to move our economy forward. It takes us backwards to a place we don't need to be. We do not need more tax cuts for folks who have done very, very well. We need more tax cuts for working Americans. We need tax cuts for families who are trying to raise your children and keep your children healthy and send them to college and put roofs over their heads. We don't need more tax cuts for companies that are shipping jobs overseas. We need tax cuts for companies that are investing here in Florida and here in the United States of America.